So, Peirce, theory of signs, a word's meaning is its use, and he breaks things into meaning, logic, and rhetoric. It's very similar to the way the Middle Ages taught about the different subjects that you would have to study. Meaning, of course, is the basic structure of the words and things you're using. Logic is the way you structure your thought processes, and rhetoric would be the way you put a speech together in order to work. And the pragmatic maxim, this is his maxim, meaning is the connection between action and experience. Experience, experience, experience. And think of this in the Darwinian sense of evolution. We're not just thinking of evolution of like a biological species from previous species, if that's something that actually happens. But instead, what we're thinking about is this dialectical process evolving things in every level of our experience, from the current situation through conflict into the next situation. Change. How does change happen? Works through this dialectical process. So if someone creates a new word and says, that's really cool, and someone else says, no, that's hot, and then someone else says, no, that's wicked, well, what are we doing? We're going through this dialectical process to see what's coolest, what's neatest, what's hottest, and what does the word mean eventually. And as you get to, of course, a contemporary speaker of a word, maybe someone that says, kill all normies. What the heck is a normie? I found out I'm a normie. Oh, well, shoot. I don't want to raise the flag, kill all normies if I'm one of them, right? What's a normie? I had to learn, okay, well, how do you do that? You go to a source, and you listen to the person who wrote the book, Kill All Normies, and you find out how she's using it in practice. That's associated with the dark web and all that kind of stuff. So it's evolution. As you can see on the Wikipedia, Charles Sanders Peirce, 1839 to 1914. Born in Cambridge, Massachusetts. His father, Benjamin, was a mathematician and astronomer at Harvard. He graduated from Harvard in 1859 and then went to the Lawrence Scientific School, where he studied chemistry, graduating summa cum laude in 1863. And for the next 15 years, he was an astronomer measuring light, a physicist for the U.S. Coast and Geodetic Survey, working for his father, and doing his own private philosophical studies. He did become a lecturer in logic at Johns Hopkins University, where he taught from 1879 to 1884 because of his being fired because dating, what was her name? I think Francine. Early life, da-da-da-da. Everybody see the name of his wife? Juliet. I should remember Juliet. That's such a famous name. Juliet. In any case, and here they are. Oh, and the house, by the way, and this is the house, is named Arisby, and it is still there, and it's open for public visitation. It's just 3 miles down from the Walmart in the Delaware Water Gap. So if you're in that area, shopping at the Walmart, I don't know, why would you be in that area? But you can stop in and look at the house. And so on. So, let me move on to James, who was influenced by Charles Sanders Peirce. And, well, I guess he did steal the word pragmatism, because what James did is, instead of focusing on logic, in fact, he never wrote about logic at all. And yet that was pretty much all that Charles Sanders Peirce wrote about. And that was what Peirce was writing about as pragmatism, was understanding logic in a way that really follows Kant and kind of explores Hegel's dialectic a little bit about it. But it comes up with an interesting, God bless you, new concept. Instead of deductive reasoning and inductive reasoning, you also have abductive reasoning, which is what happens when you put the two of them together. And the problem we have, of course, is in deductive reasoning, all of your premises have to be arranged in such a way that the conclusion follows logically, so that it's a valid deductive argument. And as a result, your conclusion is guaranteed to be true as long as your premises are true. The trouble is, how do you know that the premises are true? Well, that's where we end up having to use inductive reasoning to figure out what statements we consider to be true. And so they're guesses, because inductive reasoning is hypothetical. It means that I'm guessing at something that is true based on my experience. I might see that your hat has is that Spider-Man?
Deadpool.
I'm sorry?
Deadpool.
Dead pole. I had a dead pole yesterday, right by my, it was a red pole, but it hit the window and so it died. That's different than dead pole?
It's Deadpool, actually.
Dead pool.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with it. Oh wait, that's the guy that, like, he's dead, but he doesn't die? He wears a red suit?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I've seen.
Close enough.
Okay. So what I was just trying to say, though, is I see an icon on your hat that indicates a particular meaningful association. And my first guess at that was false. You corrected me, and everyone agreed with you, so I'm sure that what you said is true. But remember, that's based on our common experience that's fluctuating. I wouldn't disagree with it, but notice that that means that the social network is really what's dependent on our statements being true. So what's true is based on society. So it's the sociality of reason, so to speak. I've mentioned the name of that book before, but I'll just quick throw it up there again. Actually, it's the title of the book is not that, it's Hegel's Phenomenology, and the subtitle is The Sociality of Reason. By the way, that's kind of important. We have trouble with that. We want to think that certain statements are true. Dadgummit. Sorry, I don't know why I got Mark Twain thrown into that. But how would you say there's a dilemma? I'll skip ahead a little bit to John Dewey, who deals with this. And the problem is we like words or statements that something is true to mean that it's true all the time, and that it's not dependent on social convention, basically. And yet our pragmatist heritage tells us that it's really our social consensus that accepts that the idea of a statement is true is what gives it its value as true. And by the way, it could change. As a result, John Dewey thought that we should change the word from true to something else. And he thought of it as consensus. We should think of this as like a consensus as opposed to truth. So instead of using the word truth, we should do away with it and instead talk about things being a consensus, essentially. It currently is a warranted assertion to say that that is Deadpool's icon on her hat. I can't see that actually changing because that icon is probably not going to carry over and develop into some other kind of icon. Although, who knows? I have a star on my button here that the Army gave me when I retired, and it is a star that has been used throughout history. I mean, you can see lots of different uses of the star. Why right now it might mean the Army. It's just a contemporary social thing, right? As opposed to what the Egyptians might have used it for, or the Babylonians used it, or I can never remember the name of that earliest archaeological site in Turkey that they talk about and say it. Topeka.
Something Tekli?
Yeah.
Tebekli Tepe, I think.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Tom. Yes. I think there are stars, there are at least circles on those stones. Quite interesting, trying to figure out what they are. So pragmatism thinks of what's true as warranted assertions, which are warranted at the moment, and they're undergoing current exploration. I mean, scientists are trying to find out if they could show that that warranted assertion is wrong. That's one of the neat things ever since David Hume. Scientists aren't fixed in what they believe, and everybody has to learn that, or you're not allowed to be hired. Instead, the most engaging individuals are the ones that are actively trying to pursue alternative hypotheses to prove current thinking wrong. You know, that's the exciting edge of science. And that fits pragmatism, and it also fits utility. So I shouldn't leave the British, sitting totally alone in that regard. Utilitarianism is focused on language as well. However, so William James is the next one that I should move on to talk about, and he's absolutely fascinating. I think I mentioned that K. Redfield Jamison thought of him as a bipolar individual because of the mood swings that he went through. His whole family went through those mood swings, though. So if you read about the James family, one of the other more, perhaps in at least literary studies, famous members of the family, Henry James, is a novelist, and his novels, if you ever look at them, Washington Square as an example, are all very, very deep, moody novels. In fact, when I was at Monterey studying Russian, my one teacher, Госпожа Furman, I asked her, what's her favorite American novel? And she said, Henry James. So Henry James was her favorite. And I thought, well, of course, because if I was going to pick an American novelist that was as close to Tolstoy and Dostoevsky as possible, that would have been William James. Big, dense character sketches that are quite boring by today's standards. Right? No Muad'Dib, nobody surviving with a Fremen through night fight after night fight, riding worms and so on. Everything is just. Pardon?
Becoming the worm.
Oh, does that happen in one of the future? Interesting. Well, let's not go there yet. But
You'd have to read the books, I guess.
I read, I think, up to like Children of Dune and.
Oh, then you didn't get to it. It's God King.
Oh no, I never got that far.
That's the best one in the series.
No kidding. So anyway, James, born 1842, dies 1910. Let me go and take a look at his page. So he does end up going to Harvard, and that's where he meets Charles Sanders Peirce. He also is part of this metaphysical club, and while he's there, he was primarily interested in art. He wanted to become an artist, but he ended up getting interested in physiology, and so he studied physiology with Wundt in Germany. He went to lots of different German schools to study and become a medical doctor and physiologist, and that led him into psychology. And along with this, by the way, comes the invention of electricity, or the use of electricity through wires and generators and things. And James ended up hooking his patients up to wires and electricity and send currents of electricity through their bodies. We call that electroshock therapy. And he discovered that their personalities changed once he shocked them with enough electricity. And so he was convinced that the brain is electric. Aha! So that's quite an interesting advance, that the brain is electric. And his main book on psychology would really be considered by many to be the main pragmatist book still today. And the other book that I mentioned that's also very famous is The Varieties of the Religious Experience, and the lectures in Edinburgh, which are actually I should stay with where I am. Let's go to this. So this mentions the Gifford Lectures. So he gave his in 1901. When did Joyce give his? Let me check. Royce. And when did he give his lecture? Is it before or after James?